The story begins at a Canadian airport. A father, Elliot, is traveling with his daughter, Ridley. They are heading to another city because Elliot needs to finalize a business deal there. Ridley was a lonely girl who didn't have many friends. She was constantly bothered by some acne on her face. A little later, their flight arrived in the city they were heading to. Upon arrival, Elliot and Ridley got into a car and immediately drove off because Elliot was already late for his meeting. On the way, Elliot thanked his daughter for coming with him and advised her not to be too bothered by the acne on her face and to stop touching them. Elliot told her that these spots were completely normal and appear on every teenager's face. Hearing this, Ridley felt a little calmer. We then learned that her mother had passed away some time ago, and since Ridley didn't like being alone, she often went to work with her father to keep him company. Just then, Elliot received a call from the man he was supposed to make the deal with. The man angrily shouted at Elliot for being late for the meeting. Elliot apologized and made several excuses, but fortunately, the phone network was poor and the call disconnected. Elliot sighed with relief and sped up the car to reach the man's mansion. But suddenly, an animal appeared on the road, and Elliot's car collided with it. After the collision, the car spun and stopped on the side of the road. After a brief period when the atmosphere calmed down, Elliot asked his daughter Ridley if she was okay. Finding everything fine, they both got out of the car to inspect the animal that caused the collision. Ridley saw that it wasn't an ordinary animal, but a strange horse with a horn on its head, a unicorn. Most surprisingly, blue blood was flowing from its wound. Elliot was furious because he was already late for the meeting, but Ridley was amazed to see the mysterious unicorn. She had never seen anything like it before. Immediately, the unicorn's horn glowed with a yellow light, and without thinking, Ridley reached out and touched it. As soon as Ridley touched the unicorn's horn, she suddenly started seeing strange things, visions she couldn't understand. Everything became blurry before her eyes, but then she heard Elliot's voice and regained consciousness. She saw that her father was killing the unicorn. Ridley shouted at him to stop, but Elliot ignored her and didn't stop until the unicorn was completely dead. A little later, they arrived at Mr. Odell's mansion, where Elliot was supposed to finalize his deal. But surprisingly, Elliot had brought the unicorn's corpse with him in the car's trunk. Parking the car outside, Elliot got out and went inside the mansion. There, he met Odell's son, Shepard, with whom he shook hands, and then greeted Odell's wife. Finally, Elliot reached Odell's room and apologized for being late. He then learned that Odell had a serious illness and was now counting his final breaths. Elliot was making excuses for Odell to forgive him. Just then, Ridley started recalling everything that had happened with the unicorn that day. Odell noticed this and asked Ridley if she was okay. Ridley lied and said she was fine. Then, Shepard asked Ridley about the rash on her face. Elliot interrupted and told Ridley to go to the bathroom and wash her face to feel better. In reality, Elliot was doing this to get her away from there. Elliot didn't want Ridley to ruin his deal or tell anyone what had happened. When Ridley stepped out, she kept looking at the car and seemed quite nervous. At that moment, a mansion guard was watching Ridley and felt something strange. When he approached the car and looked inside, he became convinced that something was wrong or something was hidden inside. Meanwhile, Ridley went to the bathroom and washed her face. But when she looked in the mirror, she found that all the acne on her face had disappeared. When she looked at the towel, there were blue blood stains on it, the unicorn's blood. Odell was sitting with Elliot and telling him that he had tried every treatment, but nothing worked. He had now given up hope and was waiting for death. Odell also explained that he was making this deal to ensure the security of his company and his family before he died. He also gave Elliot the responsibility of his son, Shepard. Ridley, meanwhile, was still shocked because all the acne on her face had completely disappeared due to the unicorn's blue blood. After a moment of thought, she realized that the unicorn's blood was magical and could cure human illnesses. Just then, the unicorn's horn in Elliot's car began to faintly glow. When Ridley returned to her father, Elliot, he told her that she should meet Odell's family. Ridley refused, but Elliot insisted, telling her that this would be the biggest deal of his life. Ridley asked him about the unicorn, and Elliot said that if she listened to him and met Odell's family, he would fulfill her every wish. But before they could finish their conversation, strange movements began in the car. The unicorn inside started to shake. Seeing this, Elliot immediately went to Odell, apologized, and explained that he had to leave immediately. But Odell became angry and said that Elliot always failed to keep his promises. He explained that leaving now would be a great embarrassment for him. Just then, a guard approached Ridley and asked her why she looked so distressed. Ridley was about to answer when a loud noise came from Elliot's car. Everyone ran outside to see what had happened. Suddenly, the unicorn came back to life and began to tear the car to get out. Everyone present was frozen with horror and astonishment, as the unicorn's appearance was very strange and terrifying. But at that moment, the guard immediately shot the unicorn, and it died right there. Elliot was completely terrified and speechless. He then told Odell and his family everything about what happened to them on the road and how the unicorn got there. Everyone was shocked by Elliot's words. Then Ridley decided to tell the truth. She told Odell that the unicorn's blue blood had completely cured the acne on her face. Odell was astonished to hear this and asked Ridley if she felt anything strange in her body. Ridley said no. Everything was perfectly fine. Ridley suggested that they contact an animal organization to come and take the unicorn, but Odell refused, saying that if that happened, the government would misuse this creature, so he had to handle the matter himself. At night, Elliot went to his daughter's room to check on her. As soon as he saw Ridley, he asked her why she was so sad. Ridley explained that she had seen some strange things when she touched the unicorn's horn earlier today. Elliot didn't believe her and said she was just hallucinating. He advised Ridley that she should not focus on these things now because the most important thing was for them to complete their deal. But Ridley was very disturbed. She quickly gathered some information about the magical unicorn. She discovered it was part of an ancient legend. It was raised by a royal family. But later, when they learned of its magical powers, they killed it to gain its strength. A little later, the unicorn came back to life and took revenge on everyone in that family. Reading this story, Ridley became even more frightened. When she went to sleep, she started having nightmares. Ridley had a very strange dream. She saw herself running in the forest. But when she looked down, she found herself inside the unicorn's body. Ridley woke up in fear, unable to understand what was happening. As soon as she opened her eyes, some strangely shaped men were standing in front of her, who tied up her and her father, Elliot. It turned out that these were scientists Odell had called to test Ridley and Elliot to find out what effect the blue blood had on them. After the tests were finished, Ridley went to talk to her father and told him everything about the dream. Elliot told Ridley to forget everything and not to pay attention to it. Meanwhile, when the doctors finished testing the unicorn's blood, they found that it was a very strange blood. It could cure every human illness. The scientists told Odell this and suggested they conduct a direct experiment on humans to confirm it. Odell was extremely happy and decided to conduct the experiment on himself. A little later, the doctors prepared an injection of the magical blood and administered it to Odell. Ridley, distressed by this, criticized them and ran towards the forest for peace. Meanwhile, when the scientists began examining the unicorn, they found that its nerves were still working. This meant they could extract blood from it for a longer period. Ridley, meanwhile, was wandering in the forest. As she walked, she felt like someone was watching her. She looked around, but no one was there. Frightened, she ran quickly and returned home. At night, Elliot went to see Odell and asked him how he was feeling. Odell said that he was feeling much better and the treatment was working. Hearing this, Elliot was very happy and wished him a speedy recovery. Meanwhile, Ridley was still trying to gather more information about the magical unicorn. Odell's son, Shepard, saw her. Shepard decided to help Ridley. He gave her his printer so she could print all the unicorn's pictures and information and study them comfortably. When Shepard left after helping Ridley, his father, Odell, suddenly appeared before him. He now looked completely recovered. Odell immediately gathered all the doctors and ordered them to extract as much blue blood as possible from the unicorn, so he could keep the cure and use it himself forever. He also said that if this cure became common, its price would skyrocket. But the doctor stopped him and explained that it was impossible because this blood had a time limit. After that, it became ineffective. Ridley, meanwhile, was shaken by what had happened with Odell moments earlier, but she still gathered her courage and returned to her research to find out what was really happening with the unicorn. A few hours later, Ridley found some disturbing information. She went straight to Odell and asked him to listen carefully. Ridley explained that the medicine Odell had taken was very powerful and effective, but if taken in excessive amounts, it could kill him. Ridley also explained that for centuries, people had been using unicorn blood exactly as Odell was doing now. But every time, their end was very bad, as the unicorn would come back to life and kill them. As expected, Odell ignored all her advice. Instead, he told her that he would show the unicorn to the whole world and she should not talk about it again. Ridley was very upset by Odell's behavior. A little later, Odell's wife came to Ridley. She consoled her and said she would try to find a solution. Ridley then got into the car, filled with anger and sadness because her father, Elliot, was also not believing her and not advocating for her in front of Odell. Meanwhile, Odell and the other doctors were preparing the unicorn. They packed it in a bag to take it out of the mansion and into the city. As Odell and the doctors were preparing to transfer the unicorn, the electricity in the entire mansion suddenly went out. Just then, a very strong signal began emanating from the equipment the doctors had. This signal meant that the unicorn was still alive. Ridley, who was in the car, got out and looked at the sky, seeing strange colors. Elliot immediately went to the doctors to find out what was happening, but none of the doctors could understand or answer. Suddenly, a doctor died. He had been attacked by the unicorn's horn. When Elliot looked closely, he realized that the one who killed the doctor was a second unicorn, not the one they had killed earlier. The guards fired continuously at the unicorn, but it had no effect. The unicorn was very powerful and began killing all the guards one by one. Elliot, seeing all this, immediately called out to his daughter, Ridley, and told her to get in the car and leave. As soon as Ridley got into the car, the unicorn pounced on it and attacked it with full force. The other guards tried to stop it with their modern weapons, but it was useless. Ridley then got out of the car and ran to save her life, but the unicorn chased her and refused to let her go. Finally, Ridley hid in a stable, but the unicorn also reached there. Surprisingly, as soon as the unicorn got close to Ridley, it suddenly became calm. Its horn started glowing brightly, and just then, something strange was about to happen. Ridley gently touched its horn. Just then, a female guard arrived and, along with the other guards, started shooting at the unicorn. Finally, the unicorn ran away, and peace was restored. When the situation calmed down, everyone returned to the mansion. Ridley was very angry at her father. She shouted that she had warned him many times, but he had never listened to her. Elliot still ignored her and always listened to Odell. Ridley pleaded with all of them to return the unicorn to its parents. She said this was the only way to stop everything, but no one there paid attention to her. Odell decided on the exact opposite. Odell decided to hunt all these magical unicorns. He then formed a team of hunters and headed into the forest to catch the unicorns. Elliot was also preparing to follow them, but Ridley came to him and tried to stop him. She cried and begged him not to go into the forest, but as always, Elliot refused. He said he couldn't leave Odell alone. Meanwhile, Shepard went to the doctor and obtained a sample of the unicorn's blood. He believed that using this blood would give him limitless power and enable him to face any danger. Shepard made a special liquid from the blood and started using it on himself. But as soon as he did, strange things began happening to him. His body started changing, and he couldn't understand what was happening to him. During this time, Ridley also started feeling something dangerous. Ridley got into the car and thought about running away, but at the last moment, she changed her mind. She didn't want to leave her father alone. Just then, Ridley saw a strange bright light in the sky. She immediately got out of the car and rushed inside the mansion to look at her research papers to understand the light. After some searching, Ridley found out the truth. She was terrified and immediately called her father, Elliot, and told him to return to the mansion immediately because the unicorns had set a trap for them in the forest. If they reached that place, none of them would survive. But Elliot did not answer her call. Ridley then ran to the mansion guard and explained the gravity of the situation. She told him they had to take immediate action, or everything would be over. Ridley asked the guard to immediately contact everyone in the forest because they were in grave danger. Meanwhile, the doctor was trying to cut off the unicorn's horn. But the strange thing was that the horn was constantly glowing as if it were filled with energy. Meanwhile, Elliot finally received Ridley's message, but it was too late. Just then, the unicorn appeared before them and attacked all the hunters, killing them one by one. Elliot used night vision goggles to save himself, which allowed him to pinpoint the unicorn's exact location. He grabbed Odell, and they both managed to escape and reach the mansion. But the danger was not over yet. The unicorn chased them, reached the mansion, and entered inside. As Elliot and Odell were trying to escape, a second unicorn appeared before them. Both unicorns surrounded Odell. Odell used his cunning and started talking to the unicorns in a calm voice. He spoke to them gently, which made one unicorn a little calm. But as soon as Odell tried to place his hand on its horn, the second unicorn came from behind and attacked him. Odell died instantly. Just then, Ridley brought the baby unicorn. Her intention was to return it to its parents so they would calm down and stop attacking humans. But Elliot was still not satisfied. Even after all this, he was not listening to Ridley. He said he would call the police and they would solve the problem. But as soon as he took out his phone, the network was completely gone. Now everyone was scared. And Odell's wife also told Elliot that they should listen to Ridley. She said it would be best if they returned the baby unicorn to its parents. Despite Elliot's hesitation, Odell's wife made a decision. She ordered the guard and the doctor to take the baby unicorn outside and hand it over to the two unicorns waiting outside. But the doctor made a real mistake. He had cut off the baby unicorn's horn. He thought it was no big deal and the other unicorns wouldn't notice. A little later, the guard and the doctor brought the baby unicorn outside and placed it in front of its parents. But as soon as the two big unicorns saw their baby and realized that its horn was cut off, they became uncontrollable. The unicorn first attacked the doctor and killed him. The guard saw all this with his own eyes and somehow managed to escape at the last moment. When others learned of this incident, Shepard said that Ridley could handle the unicorns while the others tried to escape. Elliot was surprised and asked, "Why only Ridley?" Shepard explained that the unicorns would never harm Ridley because she was the only person who had not coveted their magical power. Everyone else had tried to gain it, but Ridley had always tried to understand them. The situation was getting worse rapidly. Elliot, frightened, went to Odell's wife and told her he didn't want to be involved anymore. He said it was their mistake and they had to fix it. Just then, strange changes began to occur in Shepard's body. Bright light began emanating from his eyes, and he was being affected by an unknown force. When Ridley and Elliot were trying to escape, Shepard appeared before them. Shepard grabbed Ridley, but just as he was about to harm her, the two unicorns suddenly appeared. Elliot and Ridley seized this opportunity and escaped through one path, while Shepard and his mother left through another path. They had the horn of the baby unicorn. On the way, Shepard's mother asked him what his plan was now. Shepard bluntly announced that he was not going to run away. He explained that his intention was to capture both unicorns and then create new magical powers from their children, which would make him the most powerful human. But then Shepard looked at his device and was shocked. The unicorn's horn was missing. Then the truth was revealed. Elliot had stolen the horn. Elliot was now sitting with Ridley. He was in deep remorse and apologizing to his daughter. With tears in his eyes, Elliot told Ridley that he had always prioritized work and never listened to her. He repeatedly apologized to her and said that he now realized he was always wrong. Ridley was deeply moved by his words. She cried and hugged her father. Just then, Shepard and his mother came rushing into the hall to find Elliot and Ridley. After a brief chase, the unicorn caught Shepard's mother and killed her. Meanwhile, Elliot locked Ridley on the balcony so the unicorns couldn't reach her. Then he moved forward and deliberately ran in front of the unicorns to distract them and give Ridley a chance to escape. After several attempts, Ridley finally, when she came out, she saw the unicorns chasing her father, trying to kill him. Ridley was about to run when Shepard suddenly arrived. He had an arrow in his hand and threatened Ridley to come with him. Ridley reluctantly followed Shepard to the courtyard. The baby unicorn was also there. Just then, the unicorn's father arrived. He looked angry and ready for revenge. But as soon as he saw Ridley, his anger gradually subsided. He came closer and bowed at her feet as if he trusted her. Shepard didn't let this opportunity slip away. He immediately rushed forward and tied a rope around the unicorn's leg to restrain him. Ridley stopped him, saying he was making a big mistake and shouldn't have done that. But as always, Shepard didn't listen. He boasted that he knew what he was doing and no one could stop him. Then suddenly, they heard a second sound. It was the unicorn's mother. Everyone turned and saw Elliot with her. He had controlled the unicorn using the baby unicorn's horn. But surprisingly, as soon as the unicorn got close to Ridley, she also became calm and lay down at her feet. When Ridley went near them, both unicorns became completely calm. Seeing this, Shepard rushed forward again and tied a rope around the mother unicorn's legs too. Seeing this, Elliot's anger flared. He swung the horn in his hand and hit Shepard with it. But Shepard was no longer human. The unicorn blood in his body had made him extremely powerful. He blocked Elliot's attack and struck Elliot with his arrow. Elliot fell to the ground, and Ridley panicked and rushed toward him. She cried loudly because Elliot was badly wounded and bleeding heavily. But before she could do anything, Shepard tried to attack again. He picked up the unicorn's horn and moved forward to finish off Elliot. Just then, the unicorn father broke free from his ropes. He rushed with full force and kicked Shepard hard with his hooves. Shepard flew into the air and fell to the ground, dying instantly. Elliot was now taking his last breaths. He held Ridley's hand and slowly said that he wanted to know one thing before he died. What did you see when you first touched the unicorn's horn? Ridley wiped her tears and said she saw some strange things. She felt that the unicorn wanted to show her something, its origin story, its world, and its pain. She also explained that in those dreams, she saw her mother's memories, the moments her father had lost long ago. Elliot smiled faintly. He looked into his daughter's eyes and said, "I am sorry, Ridley." And within seconds, he took his last breath. Ridley started crying, hugging her father. She couldn't believe she would never see him again. But then, a miracle happened. The unicorn father came to her and stood peacefully in front of Ridley. Then he combined his power with the mother unicorns, and together they used their magical energy to create a bright light. That light reattached the baby unicorn's broken horn. And just moments later, Elliot's wounds began to heal. Slowly, he opened his eyes. He was alive. Elliot could now see everything Ridley had seen before. All those dreams, those old memories, and the truth of that magical world. Elliot hugged Ridley tightly. There was happiness and peace in their eyes. It felt as if everything had finally become normal. But then the mansion doors opened. The guard came in, and behind him were the police. They looked around, but the unicorns were gone. The police arrested Elliot and Ridley, accusing them of killing Odell's family. But Elliot and Ridley were not scared. They were just happy that they had helped the magical unicorns and saved their world. Then a surprising event occurred. Instead of endangering Elliot and Ridley, the unicorns decided to help them. They used their powers to make Elliot and Ridley disappear from the police's sight and took them to a safe place. The story ends with Elliot and Ridley free and the magical unicorns returning to their forest, and the film ends on them. Friends, if you liked this story and got lost in it while watching, please subscribe to support us so we can bring you more videos like this. Thank you for watching.